The concept of markdowns is based on the relationship between price and demand. As we've seen in the economics course, for most products there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. That is, the lower the price, the higher the demand will be. This relationship could be forecasted and plotted down in a curve that shows the level of price and the corresponding level of quantity sold. This concept is taken in retail and used as a tool to efficiently manage inventory by the use of markdowns. While discussing markdowns, we are going to go through 3 stages: markdown planning, markdown execution at the store, and markdown process management. Markdown planning starts very early on, before the year actually starts. During the budgeting season, the business evaluates its discount rate and decides whether the current level of discount is in line with the company's financial goals or not. And then based on this analysis, determines the optimal discount rate target for the business. For example, looking at the P&L of a business, you can see the realized margin from last year's trading. Knowing the intake margin for this business and the realized margin, we can then calculate the discount rate. Let's say a business is currently having a realized margin of 44%. Such a margin is lower than the industry's benchmark and lower than what the business has been realizing over the last few years. While checking the intake margin of the business, we find that it is 62%, which is very reasonable for a fashion business. So the problem here is not the pricing. When we calculate the discount rate from the intake and realized margin, we find that it was 32.1%. This simply means that if we bought inventory and priced it to sell at $100,000 in retail value, after all the markdowns, we actually sold it at $67,900 in retail value. That's why our margin for this year has been so low. So we decide that next year we need to reduce our discount rate and bring it to 20%. This will allow us to raise our realized margin from 44% to 52.5%, assuming that intake margin will be the same. This could happen in 2 different ways: reducing the number of event days, or reducing the level of discount, or by combining both together. So we pull out our marketing or events calendar from last year and see how many number of event days did we have, and also what was the types of events and the discount level at those events. We can then start adjusting our markdown events to reduce the number of days. For example, instead of running the end of season sale for 3 weeks, 21 days, we can reduce it to 14 days. We can also tweak other events, especially if we are not able to touch the mid-season or end-of-season sales because they are essential for clearing merchandise. So we could go to other promotional events, for example, sales promotions at 40% off or a buy one get one free promo, and reduce their number of days or reduce the level of discount at those promos. For example, instead of 40%, we can reduce it to 30% off, and so on. To calculate the effect this would have on realized margin, we can run a simulation by seeing how much of inventory we expect to sell at full price and how much we expect to sell at 25% off and how much we expect to sell at 50% off, and so on. You can run those calculations manually, or we have also created a markdown planning tool that helps you run those simulations quickly. We then keep tweaking the days and discount level until we arrive at the optimal markdown plan that will deliver our new targeted discount rate and consequently our new targeted realized margin. This will be incorporated into our new events calendar for the next year, and the sales budget will be based on it. It should be noted here that reducing the number of event days will most of the time reduce sales, but it will also improve our margins. As we can see from this P&L, in 2017 the business delivered higher sales than 2016, but gross profit was higher due to higher margins and less discounts. Sales and margins should always be budgeted together, and the business needs to find the balance between higher sales at lower margins versus higher margins and lower sales volume, and better profitability. This is for the planned markdowns. However, when the season begins, we keep monitoring our sales performance, and at some point we might find ourselves in a position of having to initiate unplanned markdown events. Inventory is being purchased based on the planned sales, So if during the season those planned sales did not happen as forecasted due to many possible reasons, here we need to start dealing with this inventory that will now start to build up. At this point, we can initiate an unplanned markdown event at a certain discount level and for a certain period of time. While planning for this exceptional event, we will apply the same concept that we have discussed. We will first determine the level of inventory and how much this is above the targeted level. This will give us how many pieces in excess we currently have. We can even go further and see exactly which categories or SKUs are overstocked. Then we start our planning. For example, the excess inventory could not be that high, but we are being proactive about it. So in this case, we don't need to clear that much of inventory. So there is no need to initiate a deep discount. If we determine that a 20 or 30% discount will do the job based on our dynamic of demand and price levels, then we will go ahead with this discount level and only for the number of days needed to bring inventory down to the desired level. Also, as we discussed in the pricing course, if we start giving too much discount too often, it's going to shift consumer behavior towards our brand and our original prices. It will have a bad long-term effect that we might never be able to recover from without the need of rebranding for the entire business. So when it comes to the tool of markdowns, we need to use it with extreme caution. Now let's get into the planning of the markdown event itself. The first step is to prepare the sales list or the item list. This list will tell us what will go on discount and what will not be included. There are two factors that determine what will go in the markdown: the age of the product and the sell-through rate at this age. It's actually not advised to put any new products under discount. It's always better to exclude them unless we are running a store-wide promotion for a certain event date that's very short. But for normal markdown events, the inclusion will start at a certain age. Let's say this age is 6 months, and anything above 6 months will go on sale. The other thing that should not be included is NOS merchandise. NOS stands for never out of stock. This is a type of merchandise that is always available at the store regardless of the season. For example, basics categories could be NOS. The types of products differ from one business to another. So such categories rarely go on sale because they are not seasonal, unless we have bought too much inventory of them and need to bring this inventory level down. The other factor is sell-through. An item might not have reached the age, but its sell-through performance is showing that it's not in line with the expected sell-through at this level, which is an indicator that this item is not attractive to customers. In this case, it could be included in the sale so that it can be cleared on time. The next decision while creating the item list is the level of discount of each item. Here, also we will depend on the age and sell-through to determine the level of discount. We do not put a flat discount level on all items that will go on sale. Instead, it's better to use markdown levels to steer customers toward the older items and items that have not been performing. Items that are newer will get a lower level of discount, and items that are older will get a higher level of discount. That's because the newer items will get another chance at the next markdown event, where it will go into a deeper discount level. Some items, on the other hand, might even be sold below their cost price at negative margins, and that's okay. Because at this age for that item, all we want is to generate some cash out of it before it gets obsolete and we need to write it off completely. In other words, for this item, it's better to get $1 out of it rather than getting $0. If we structure the markdown pricing correctly, we will be able to get good sales and margins out of this event, because each item will be selling at the appropriate margin for its age and performance so far. So for example, an end-of-season sale that's advertised to be up to 50% off will have items selling at 30% off and others at 40% and others at 50%. For the same sale, another phase could then be planned, which is the further reduction phase. Pricing for this phase will not be determined from now, but rather later on after the sale starts and after reviewing the sales performance. We will get into that in the next lesson. Once you have determined which SKUs will go on sale and the ideal price for each SKU, you will generate the sale list. This list will include the SKU, its category, and other categorization or attributes if needed so that the store team can identify it easily, and the original price and sale price. This list will then be shared with the store teams to execute the markdown on the shop floor, which takes us to the next lesson on markdown execution. The number one priority during a markdown event is the availability of merchandise on the sales floor. This applies to merchandising team as well as the operations team. So the first thing is to plan which store will receive which allocation of sale merchandise. In many cases, there is already sale merchandise at the stores, but there is extra at the warehouse, and this needs to be prioritized to the locations that will clear it the most. Not all locations perform the same during sale as they perform during full price trading. From previous sale events, you will be able to know which locations perform very well during sale time and are able to move much more merchandise than other locations. So the sale allocation will take this into consideration while planning which store will receive how much product. The second thing is clear communication. The stores should receive a clear instruction for the sale that details when the sale will start, what will go on sale, and what they expect to receive and when. This is important so that they can plan their own execution for the sale on the floor, which will include the receiving of merchandise, pricing it with sale tags, and arranging for the day to display it visually and officially launch the sale. On the day of the sale launch, the new prices will then be live on the system, and an important action to be taken here on the launch date is to confirm with the stores that the new prices are being reflected on the cash register. Once this happens, the sale has now officially started. From there, we go to the step of managing the markdown event, which we are going to explore in the next lesson. When we launch a markdown event, we have a narrow window, which is the duration of the event, to clear as much inventory as possible. To make sure we are getting the most out of this event, we need to start monitoring the event performance. Two reports are important at this stage: the sell-through report and the aging report. As we keep selling, we want to see improvement in sell-through in all the items that are on sale, so that by the end of the event we reach the targeted sell-through for them. The aging report will show us which age bucket is clearing the most. We take a snapshot from the aging report right before the event, and this will show us stock holding in value and quantity at each age bucket. Then during the event, we keep generating the same report and comparing with the pre-sale snapshot. Ideally, the items in the highest age bracket should clear the most because they have the highest discount rate. However, this is not always the case, because a lot of that old stock is already broken sizes and old collections. Now we are going to give some tips on troubleshooting low sell-through rates. When sell-throughs are low on certain items, before assuming that they are not performing, we need to do 3 checks first. Check that they are being replenished, check that they are being displayed on the floor, and check that they have been priced. Items sell very fast during sale, and if we haven't adjusted our auto-replenishment system or even turned them off but didn't do the manual allocation in adequate quantities, those items might be at the warehouse and not being sent to stores quickly enough. This is easy to spot as the stock on hand report will show 0 at the store and quantity at the warehouse. So the low sell-through here is because the item is sitting at the warehouse and not because it's not selling on the floor. The other thing is to check that the item is being replenished from the stock room to the shop floor. This cannot be spotted from the reports, so this should be checked by the operations team during their visits to the stores during the sale, to make sure that all the sale items are being represented on the floor. If you suspect that this is the case, you can raise this with the respective operator of the store. It might show in reports that one particular store is having low sell-through on certain SKU, while this SKU is selling very well at other stores. so this could be a display issue. The final thing to check when you see low sell-throughs is pricing. If an item has not been tagged with the sale price, it might not sell as fast, as customers will assume it's not on sale. This is also an operations checkpoint to make sure that pricing has been executed by the store team before the launch of the sale. But also, and this is very common, to make sure that items received as a replenishment from warehouse during the sale are being priced by the store team before displaying on the floor. After monitoring both reports, the sell-through and aging, we can then start making decisions on the next phase of the sale, which is the further reduction phase. For example, if we launch an end-of-season sale of up to 50% off for 3 weeks, we can run up to 50% for the first 2 weeks, and then the last week will be further reduction, for example, up to 70%. Choosing the items that will go into further reduction and how much discount they will get will depend on the performance so far in the event, with the lowest performing ones that didn't reach their target sell-through getting the highest discount and the good performing ones getting a lower one. Another decision that we might need to take at this stage is inter-branch transfers. We might find that few of the stores are not moving inventory quickly while other stores are already selling out of the stock and the event still has 10 days to go. In this case, we can initiate inter-branch transfer from the slow-moving store to the highest ones so that we can clear most of the merchandise by the end of the event. It should be noted here that inter-branch transfers are a source of stock loss. Basically, any stock movement, whether from store to store or from store back to warehouse, carries a degree of stock loss risk. Also, transfers cost money to ship the item between the stores and to process the shipment at both stores and at the warehouse if needed. So it's important to only initiate such a move if it's necessary and productive. For example, if the move would only increase the speed of clearing inventory by a small degree, or if it's going to be costly, then it's better to keep the inventory where it is until the end of the sale. At this stage, we will have other options for the remaining unsold inventory, which we are going to discuss in the next lesson. After the sale has ended, we will probably still have some inventory left. For this inventory, we have a few options. Keep it at the store on the floor in designated areas until it's cleared. Keep it at the stores in the stock room until next sale. Consolidate it from all stores into one or more stores and clear it from there. Return it back to warehouse until next sale. Return it back to warehouse and then clear it outside, either through outside clearance events or by selling it to bulk buyers. Write off and remove from the books, and this applies for the portion of inventory that has reached a certain age and this sale was the final chance to clear it before write-off. Which option is the best depends on how much inventory is left and also what best suits the brand itself, as well as whether or not the different stores have space for such inventory. One consideration here is that if we left the sale stock on the floor, it would affect our full price sales afterwards. Another consideration is the visual display of the store. Sale items are broken ranges and look messy, and after sale, the store needs to get a fresh look. On the other side, as we mentioned before, the more inventory moves, the more there is a risk of stock loss, and also the cost factor is there. So you need to weigh the pros and cons of each option and choose from there based on what's ideal for your current situation, and also based on the brand guidelines and standards. If we plan and manage markdowns this way, we make sure to get the most out of our inventory by skimming the market and selling the most pieces at each price level until we finish the inventory. This way, we get the highest possible margin out of our inventory investment, which, to return back to what we started the course with, will reflect on our GM ROI. And that's the main goal of the entire inventory management process, to get the highest return possible on our inventory investment by optimizing our margins while also turning our inventory fast enough so that this money could be invested again in new stock and get us more profit with each turn.